We're already seeing the third generation of foldable phones, but dual-screen handsets remain exceedingly rare, possibly for good reason. But that didn't stop Microsoft from bursting onto the scene last year with the Surface Duo, and trying to pick up where the last major dual-screen phone, the ZT Axon M, left off. Now the Surface Duo 2 is here, and while Microsoft has packed in a lot of upgrades inside and out, I'm still not sold on dual-screen phones. In fact, I'm pretty sure Microsoft should stop trying. Advertisement. A foldable phone that looks like a book. One of the best things about the original Surface Duo was its design, which featured ultra-thin glass displays held together by a nifty hinge, and virtually no awkward angles or unsightly protrusions to break up its minimalist lines. It looked as if Microsoft re-engineered a hardcover book for the 21st century, and even if you didn't like the device itself, there was no denying it was beautiful. The Surface Duo is now available in both black and gray. Whoa, get excited, but its general design hasn't deviated much from last year's model. In fact, Microsoft has tweaked a number of little aspects that make the Duo 2 look and feel even better before. The Duo 2's hinge is smaller, while its bezels are thinner and its screens are slightly larger at 5.8 inches each or 8.3 inches combined, without increasing its overall dimensions. Heck, Microsoft built the Duo 2's fingerprint sensor into its power button, so the weird divot on the side is gone. And it seems Microsoft even listened to feedback about the edges of the first Duo being a bit too sharp, because on the Duo 2, they're a bit more rounded, which makes the device much more pleasant to hold. Microsoft also rounded out the edges of the Duo 2's display on the side closest to the hinge, which allows you to see things like the time, notifications, and charging status when the phone is plugged in, using the Duo's new glance bar. It's a clever feature, and on a phone that basically requires two hands to open before you can really use it, it's also really useful. Of course, there's one new component that doesn't really jive with the Duo 2's new streamlined design, a huge camera hump in back. I get why Microsoft wanted to put a nice rear camera module on the Duo 2. The only camera on the original was the selfie cam, mounted above the phone's right screen, and people hated it. But I really don't think a camera this big or bulky was the way to go. Not only does it look like it was just tacked on the back of the phone like an afterthought, but the camera module also makes it impossible to open the phone a full 360 degrees. That huge camera bump feels like a rather brutish solution to improving photography. This means there's a gap between both halves of the phone when you're trying to use it in single screen mode, which increases its thickness and makes the whole thing feel much less sturdy. Without much effort, you can even bend parts of the phone opposite of its cameras to the point where its corners touch. Now it's true that Microsoft has made some small adjustments to alleviate some of the stress, like giving the camera module a slightly slanted design, so that its screen sits flat on its rear camera when folded back. But for such an elegant device, the Duo's camera module remains a rather brutish solution, and that's before we even talk about the kind of pictures it produces. Flagship performance, finally. One of the biggest misfires about the original Surface Duo was its weak hardware, which included a Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chip that was already outdated at launch. Microsoft packed a current-gen Snapdragon 888 chip, a respectable 8GB of RAM, and 128GB of base storage, though sadly, no support for microSD cards, into the Duo 2. That gives the device a big performance boost, putting it on the same playing field as Samsung's Galaxy S21 Ultra and other super premium Android phones. It also fared slightly better than the Pixel 6's Tensor chip on some tests, like Geekbench's multi-core CPU benchmark. Microsoft also upgraded the Duo 2's two 1892x1344 AMOLED displays with 90Hz refresh rates, which makes everything from gaming to simply scrolling down websites look and feel noticeably smoother. And while the Duo 2 is still running Android 11 and likely won't see an update to Android 12 for many months, a lot of the multitasking issues and general performance bugs have been fixed and polished too. However, one aspect of the Duo 2's performance that still feels somewhat rough is its touch response. I've been using the Duo 2 for weeks, and I'm not sure if it's a calibration issue, wonky settings, or inputs that just don't get recognized, but for some reason, even simple gestures like swiping up to open the app launcher or swiping down to open the notification tray often require multiple attempts to go through. It's hugely frustrating, particularly when you first boot up the phone, because sometimes it feels like the Duo 2 is straight up ignoring you. I've asked other folks to test out Duo 2's touch response, just to make sure it wasn't just me, and some people thought it was broken. I started to get used to it, but navigating through menus and even switching between apps just doesn't feel as smooth or intuitive as it should. It might be okay to stick huge cameras on the back of a phone if they shoot really great photos, but that's not what you get on the Surface Duo 2. The Duo 2 sports a rear camera module that sticks out twice as far as the one on the Galaxy Z Fold 3, and you get noticeably worse pictures. When compared to the Pixel 6, the Duo 2's cameras are even more terrible. The main camera woes come down to image processing. In a typical daytime shot of a flower, the Duo 2 completely oversaturated the flower's petals, which turned the flower into a bright magenta blotchy mess. In another shot of a baseball field, the Duo 2's pic looked desaturated and lifeless. Even the Duo 2's ultra-wide-angle camera looks grainy and blurry compared to the one on the Pixel 6. And this is all before the lights go down, which is when the Duo 2 really struggles. Solid battery life, but no wireless charging. My bigger issue is that even with upgraded 23-watt wired charging, Microsoft still didn't include support for wireless charging, which is a real unfortunate omission on a flagship phone, not to mention no real form of water resistance. Subscribe to our channel for more informative videos.